Welcome, welcome. It's late at night for me. I've got a new role. I shot Orwo. I cannot say that, right? Original Wolfen. Orwo, right? Right? UN54. Okay, this is their 100 speed black and white film. I think it's the one they're best known for. Right? I talked to somebody who used to be the main contact point in the United States for the company, and this is the one film that was sort of like the one I had to try. They have two varieties of it right now, so if you buy it as a cinema roll, it does not have an anti-halation layer. Now they make this that they advertise to photographers, and it says that it differs from UN54 in that it has an additional dyed anti-halation layer. Now, that though is not what's really available to me, right? What's available to me in the United States is the UN54 cinema variety that's been bulk rolled, loaded into canisters. So Flick Film sells it as Wolfen 100, and I picked it up for $7.19. I got two rolls so that I could learn from the first and then see what I could do with the second. And yeah, okay, so let's go to the photos. And I did, I think, pretty good on this first roll. I like a fair number of the images. There's quite a bit I'm excited about. When I first saw the negatives, I was nervous that they were very thin and wished that I had developed longer. But the nice thing about a thin negative, as long as you have shadow detail, right, is it's actually very sharp and beautiful. It's just a question of, did you really get your shadows up? And then also of like, what do your highlights look like? Sometimes I like a pretty dense highlight. I like that quality of a cubic grain film, the way the grain builds in the densest parts. So, right, but yeah, so it was a thin negative. Let me say a little bit about the development. I used something called FRUD, Digital Revolution Universal Developer, FRUD. And it's basically a stand development, right? It's highly diluted, and it's a mixture of HC110 and Rodinol. So that's the short version. The longer version is that you do like a 4-minute pre-wet. You're doing very typical temperatures like 68 degrees. And then for the first minute, gentle agitations. And then you're just going to do like a 30-minute stand. If I could do this over again, I probably would have done a 45-minute stand. And then the amounts of developers, right, you're looking for about 4 milliliters total. And you can play with that ratio, right? Stephen Schaub, the inventor of this, he likes a little more HC110 typically. So maybe 2-to-1, that ratio of HC110 to Rodinol. And right, so Rodinol has a very distinct grain and sort of a punchy sharpness. So it's just kind of a matter of like, how much are you wanting to turn that up, right? Think of it as a dial. So this was 2 parts HC110 to 1 part Rodinol. And yeah. Now the images. Okay, and I've edited them, I've looked at them, but I am going to sort of dig into them a little bit more at 100%. right? So, what I was seeing here was this cup underneath this mailbox. I also just sort of like the way the shadows were kind of meeting at the mailbox. This whole roll, I'm using the same lens. It's a 24 millimeter Elmar, which only opens up to 3.8. All right, so here we are at 100%. So photo, but I really like just the film look, right? The tones, the sharpness, the grain. It's beautiful. I do sort of wonder, right, if I really wanted to open up the shadows, like I'm gonna not try to say this over and over again, but I wish I developed these a little bit longer. Right, I feel like I was just right on the edge a lot with my shadows. Again, this tonality across the car. This is just a test shot, right? Sort of a. Oh, you know what? This is a 35 1.7 actually. Yeah. I did have a second lens. All right, now I'm to the 24 millimeter. All right, my boys having some ice cream at the Tillamook factory. I was a little nervous about the 24 here because it's so big, but so is this gigantic factory, right? So I wanted to get the Tillamook. Yeah. Let's go into 100%. Yeah. Do you see how one of my sons is like still sort of looks like he's just beginning his ice cream cone, and my other son, like he's already finished his, right? So, but in terms of like the film here, I am excited about it, right? This is 35 millimeter film at 100%, right? It's pretty gorgeous. Yeah. Now, this is the one that does not have the anti-halation layer, but right, as long as you're not bombing the film, I mean, look at this. Right, as long as you're not bombing the film with light, it doesn't really affect the sharpness. And I actually shoot double X a lot because I like the look of a film that doesn't have an anti-halation layer. Now, I actually like this image sort of more cropped in, right? Something like that. I'm going to do it. I'm going to crop this thing. I'm actually going to go 4:5. That's sort of my favorite ratio. All right, now I got to sort of nail it here. Okay, let's see how that looks. I like that better. Yeah. I may even want to go in closer, but yeah, so I liked him, right, looking into. This is actually a window, right? It's a very reflective window, but he's looking into the ice cream factory. All right, my other son still taking his sweet time with his ice cream cone. Now you can see he's just a touch blurry. I saw him walking into the shadow, and I like ran into place, and I totally I didn't even look at my camera settings. I just like snap. because I wanted to make sure I got him before he got into the shadow. And I did, and I actually like that he's a little bit blurry. And I mean, look at the cone, right? All right. So we're walking back out to the car, and I see these French fries on the ground. And I almost step on them, and I realize that they're French fries, but then I, like, faster than that, I realized that, like, this is fine art. So, yeah, there you go. I call this one fries. Okay. All right, this is a new day, and I'm just out. It's now morning time. I'm shooting with f3.8, and I'm actually finding that my shutter needs to be a 30th of a second. And so instead, I shoot a 60th of a second and basically treat this as a 200 speed film. And I'm thinking, oh, well, I'll just do a stand development and that'll, save me. And that's mostly true, except this is the section where the negatives looked pretty thin. But still, right? And even some of them still shooting a 30th of a second. Here I liked these glasses. You see these little glasses here that didn't quite make it into the dumpster. There's this dumpster company, right, where you get this big giant bag and you fill it up, and then you call them and they come and they dump it. And whenever I see these things, they just have the most, I don't want to say bizarre, but like, it's such a weird, right? It's all the stuff that people like can't really get into their trash cans, right? So it just ends up being like a bunch of really random things. And then other people in your neighborhood start to realize you've got one, and maybe they try to sneak something in there. But yeah, I don't love this shot, but I am sort of practicing this, like, right, trying to use foreground and background to find composition, and sort of saw it as a chance to like test the film a little bit. Right, and the film looks really good. Really, really good. I mean, the grain is so fine, right? So fine. Even up here, right? This is the sky. Right, and I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's like FP4 grain. All right. I like this one because, right, we all know this scene, right? A family buys a basketball goal. It makes a ton of sense for a while. But at some point, the kids grow up and there's just like a basketball goal around. And for me, it also is like, reminds me, I mean, I don't want to go too deep here. This is not therapy, right? But like, I was the kid that grew up with the basketball goal, and sort of like, right, that it's like, I get a little bit sad when I see this, right? But I also love just like the way it's kind of plopped over, and you got this like log in the front and this big tree right here that's like basically, from this perspective, bigger than the house. And the house is kind of hiding back here. And yeah, I like that one. Now, this one I'm trying to sort of use a little bit more of the depth behind it. Right, it's 24 millimeters, so it's sort of hard to get out of focus areas. But I get close, right? I try to get some background, a little bit of fall off. It's subtle. And then the way this wood is looking, right? My highlight maybe got a little hot there. And you can kind of see in here, right? This is my shadows are a little weak. All right. Might just make a little adjustment on the fly here, right? Okay. I mean, it sort of fits my style though, right? It's like, I showed these pictures to someone earlier today, and they noticed that I've slightly changed my editing style. Right, I'm trying for more dark grays and less just like crushed blacks. Right, and this is again always goes back to my love for Kudelka's images, and his have so much dark gray. Here I'm seeing this like, right, this sort of like leading line that becomes a rectangle, and you get these three, right? I'm just seeing right? I know it's not the greatest image in the world. Again, I'm mostly like just looking for a chance to test this roll, but now what I see these trees here that are in front of this house, and I think that's pretty interesting. And then I start to get this idea of, right, including the street, and then a car comes in, and again you can see I'm shooting a 30th of a second, and I'm sort of letting that be part of the image, right? I'm like, if I'm going to shoot a 30th of a second, I'll show that off with a little bit of motion blur. And this is like a 20 mile per hour speed zone, so it's not like they're flying through, but it's okay. And I took two here, and I couldn't decide which one I liked better. But I really like the way the 24 millimeter, right, shows sort of, right, I think this is maybe even 3.8 still, right, but it has so much depth to this, right? I think I'm focused somewhere in the middle of the road, right? But it makes this road feel so big, even though this is just like a 2-lane road, right? Yeah. And again, 30th of a second, so I got a little bit of blur on that car. Yeah, and I'm just sitting there waiting for the car, right? They don't know that, right? They think I'm just like taking a picture. Who knows? They might not even see me, but now I like the one that is again the wheels in motion right there. I think looks pretty nice, but this one though, gosh, I think I like the foreground a little bit more on this one, and also I think like the diagonals of the of like the painted white is showing up a little more, right? The graphic nature of that. Although, man, I don't know. I think I like this one just because I like the car a lot more in this one. Man, all right, shoot. Yep. Ugh. This one has more of like a full frame feel, and this one feels a little more like there's just like it's a little bit kind of everything is sort of more in the middle, with this like little leaf exception. All right. I don't know. It's okay. These like bushes around whatever this thing is. Let's just go in here. Right. There's 100%. Plenty sharp. Plenty sharp. Yeah, I think there's so many good 100 speed films, right? It's like Foma, Kentmere, FP4, the Ferrania films, right? It's like And this is another one. I'm so far away from this building with the 24 millimeter that I sort of wanted to use this tree to. Oh, look at this! Oh man, look at is that part of the tree? Oh, you know what? I thought that was like a dust or something on the film. I think that's actually part of the tree. Sorry if you are a limb. I'm getting rid of you. Sorry. Looks too much like a hair on film. Okay, so right, it's like 24 millimeter. So I use this tree to sort of frame. It's such a cool building, right? Lewis and Clark campus is gorgeous. All right. All right. So composition, but the film, right? I just want to show off these grays. Yeah. These I'm starting to get an eye for the spherical leicas. There's a signature to the out of focus areas. Okay, this is a well, does it matter what it is? It's like a giant trash thing, right? It's like throw your trash in here, but there's only a little bit of trash in there, right? So it has so much history of what's been thrown in here. Look at all this, right? It's like, but then what trash is actually in here? Like a vegetable tray, right? And what's so bizarre about all this, there's like a food container, whatever this is, looks like a cream cheese, and a vegetable tray. Now, look at that. It looks like everything is 3/4 still good. It's like whoever threw this away, like I don't know if it like went bad, or if they just needed to dispose of the evidence. I don't know. But yeah, so I got a kick out of sort of what was inside this trash container. And even like sort of the kind of how this container looks so good in black and white, right? I took a few of that kind of came around and included this tree and this light pole. Right now, oh look, some new trash on this side, right? I wanted this thing on the left here to be sort of a strong visual element. And it sort of didn't. I mean, it's okay. I sort of like how there's this like truck driving away over here. I don't know. I think I'm gonna let go of this one. This was like one I wanted to be really great, but it's like somehow I want some parts to actually be less sharp. I don't know. All right, so this is the second to last shot on the roll, and right, I like it. I like the way the light's hitting. Again, this is like morning light. Included this window up here. Right, it was pretty selective in sort of how the reflection of the tree was placed. Let's come in here to 100%. Yeah. But notice this thing, right? It's like a little ghosty. Right? This is a bulk loaded roll, and I can't show you my last frame because it was ruined. And even this one, right? suffered from this thing, which sort of looks like lens flare, even though it's not, right? It's always the risk when you shoot a bulk loaded roll, is that you don't quite know what the situation is at the very end of it. And in this case, I definitely got my 36 frames, so I can't complain that I didn't get 36 frames. But I did not get the last one. And if you want to, depending on how you want to count this, right? 2 frames. Okay, so closing thoughts here. There's some in here that I really like. It makes me think that I might put one or two of these on my website. See if I can't sell a print. And then I'm excited that I have a second roll of this, right? And then I got to do a little bit of math, right? It's like $7.19 was a good price. But if I think, if I'm like, what if I get 100 feet of this? What's the price then? And do my own rolling. But again, it's like as excited as I am about it, there's so many good 100 speed films. And it's so hard to like do a really good side by side to, sometimes it's a little bit more about, maybe how sensitive to red are they? And then it's like, what I'll be interested in with the second roll. It's like here I feel like the development definitely like barely got me 200 speed. And it's like I like 100 speed film that I can, if I want, I can push it out to 400 or even further. Right, I feel like FP4 goes almost to 500, almost to 800. And so I don't know. I think my second roll, I am gonna try to get some more density out of the negatives and see what happens. Either through development or, whatever. Or extra exposure. I mean, nowhere am I really kind of seeing a lot of grain characteristic, right? If anything, it's just sort of a very subtle grain, right? Right, where's maybe a really good, let's come over here and look at this side of the house. It's a little out of focus, but yeah, I mean, it's like I can see the grain, right? And this was, I think it's maybe noteworthy that like it doesn't just scream raw null development, right? It's like it feels a little more like HC110, right? It's not a D76 look, right? It's more of an HC110 look. But again, there was some raw null, which maybe sharpened it up. And I will say the images are sharp, right? So, all right. See you next time. Take care.